Hi, everybody. So this one's going to be a little bit long because we're talking about the compensation changes. Here in North Carolina, we are one of the last states in the country that does not allow the compensation to be put into the offer to purchase and contract for how much the buyer's agent's going to be paid. And as you guys know, we had the NAR settlement in the Seitzer Burnett case last year. And so we've been trying to kind of figure out what's going on. Well, there was a bill introduced in the General Assembly back in June that was going to force the Real Estate Commission to remove the rule. It's 0112. And so that rule was going to be removed by statute. So the Real Estate Commission got ahead of it, decided that they would present a rule change and make that change in advance. Now, that's been submitted to the General Assembly. Everything's been approved by the Overhead Licensing Board. It's just going to take a vote to get everything done. And by November 1st of this year, that will no longer be a rule. That means that we will be allowed to put the buyer's agent compensation into the offer to purchase and contract. So let me tell you the good, the bad, and the ugly of this. So number one, we made a change to the contract. NC Realtors changed the contract back in July, and that allowed the compensation to actually be on the front page of the contract. So it was more, the concessions were there. We were able to do that through closing cost with the seller. But there were some people that said, no, 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 we've got to have the buyer's agent compensation specifically listed. And the reason we had that rule is because the Bar Association, the Real Estate Commission, and many others out there believe that that should not be a part of the negotiation because the contract is between the buyer and the seller. So that's the rationale. Whether you agree with it or not, whatever. But the point is, that's why it should not be in there, according to the commission and according to a lot of attorneys, including at the Bar Association. So what's going to happen next? Well, we're probably going to get that rule approved by November 1st. The forms committee is already meeting, trying to figure out how to address this, what it looks like. And there's a lot of discussions going back and forth. So imagine this. And by the way, this could have already happened. It's just going to be more prevalent. So here's my scenario here. I'm going to tell a quick scenario. So imagine a buyer presents an offer and the buyer's agent has agreed with the seller that it's going to be 2.5%. So we write 2.5% of the sale price into the contract. Everybody agrees to it. Everybody signs off on it. Then the buyer does a home inspection, and the home inspection turns up, $6,000 or $7,000 worth of stuff that needs to be taken care of. Seller says, we'll be happy to fix those things, but you have to reduce the buyer's agent compensation. Now it becomes an obstacle to the contract. Right now, that's not as prevalent because you don't really see that as a separate charge. It's agreed to outside of the contract. Now that it's agreed to inside the contract, it's more likely to be negotiated in situations like that. So for those of you that are in North Carolina, if you're a buyer's agent in North Carolina, you need to be aware of this. You need to get your buyer's agency agreement signed. You need to find out what you're working for up front. You need to call the listing agent before a showing and say, what are you paying in buyer's agent compensation? If they don't do that, if they tell you, well, it'll depend on your offer, you may not want to show the house because your buyer may not want to get in a situation where they don't know what it's going to cost them. After all, remember, the ability of the buyer to qualify for the loan is a material fact here in the state of North Carolina. And if we don't know whether the buyer's going to have to pay the buyer's agent compensation out of pocket, which on a $500,000 house could be anywhere between $10,000 and $20,000, depending on what the fee is, that extra $10,000 to $20,000 may take them out of being able to qualify for the home. So that's why this is so important. There's a lot of moving parts to this. Bottom line is this. This is a recommendation from Brian. Please remember, I am not an attorney. Let me say that again. I am not an attorney, and there's a very good reason. But here's what I suggest. Keep doing what you're doing right now. Use Form 220. Don't put it in as an addendum to the contract. It was not designed to be an addendum. Form 220 was designed to be outside of the contract. There are some pieces in it that there are disputes over whether it can be attached. So to keep yourself safe, keep doing it like you've been doing. If the buyer needs the compensation paid, then put it into the concessions on the front page of the contract. I know this is long, but I appreciate you taking the time to watch. I think it's very important that we all be aware of this. If you have any questions, always feel free to DM me.